I just love it when my model takes a step into that perfect side and backlit spot where the background is blurred and beautiful and the sun streaks across the scene like a California dream. Yeah. It almost never happens. So today, we're going to talk about what to do instead. First, I'm James Lavish. Welcome. I do photography tips and tricks, gear insights and reviews. So if that sounds interesting to you, hit the subscribe button. It would be super appreciated. Okay, so you're out with your model or maybe a bride and I don't know, maybe you live in the Northeast or the Northwest where the sun goes on sabbatical for half the winter. But even so, catching sun flares in camera can be difficult, especially with the lenses these days and the quality of them. They're made to prevent the sun flares, even though sometimes they look really good in camera. In any case, I'm going to show you a super simple method to add a sun flare overlay in 3 easy steps in Photoshop. Oh, and stick around to the end for a bonus tip. It's not necessary, but it's something that I often do and just helps bring it all together. You can check out my work at James Lavish on Instagram or on my website, jameslavish.com. I'll put both links below. Oh, and look at the photos on there and see if you can tell which ones I may have used this method on and put it in the comments. Okay, so you have your photo, it's been color corrected, and it's loaded into Photoshop. Now you're just 3 simple steps away from adding that sun flare and a little bit of extra emotion into your photo. Let's dive into Photoshop and I'll show you how. Okay, so here we are. We have our color corrected photo loaded up in Photoshop. And the first step is just to choose our flare. And I have a bunch of them in a file here that I've downloaded from various places on the internet. And you can find them with a simple Google search. Just be sure to look for ones with black backgrounds. Makes it easier to isolate the flare and the overlay. Also, look for large files as they're gonna fit the photo better if you're shooting at 20 megapixels or higher. And if you don't find what you're looking for, you can always try Shutterstock, 123RF, or my personal favorite is Adobe Stock. They have a ton of high quality photos and overlays. So in this situation, I'm thinking about this golden grass and kind of the reddish hues. So I'm gonna choose this one right here. And all we do is we just drag it and drop it onto the photo. And so our first step is going to be to rotate this to match the sun where it's coming from. And you can see here that the sun is hitting her right along the edge of her shoulder and on her face on this side and the back of her hair. So what I want to do is rotate this. So this sun is up in this corner. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. And then I'm just going to make sure that it fits the photo so we don't get any weird color lines. And just press enter. And that drags it on there. And that's it, we're done. How's it look? Okay, so yeah, it looks terrible. So the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna change the blending mode. So you see right here, I usually use either overlay or soft light. And something like this, probably screen. Sometimes subtract will work for different files, but definitely play around with the different blending modes and see what works best and see what you like. So like I said, this one is probably gonna be screen. I like that. Overlay's a little bit too dark. This linear dodge is a little bit too light, and I don't think any of these will work. Yeah, so screen is gonna be the one that we go with here. And that's a little bit too bright. We'll just bring down the opacity a bit. About 60% looks good to me. I want it to be dramatic, and it definitely does look dramatic, and that looks pretty good to me. So, and that's it. It's as simple as that. Here's the before, and here's the after. Super dramatic effect, and I like it. Okay, we're almost there. First, tell me what kind of photos you guys are taking. Weddings or portraits or something completely different? Put in the comments below and tell me what you guys are planning on using this for. I'd really like to know. On that, if you're wondering which lenses I use for different types of photography, I just did a video about my 3 favorite lenses called the Holy Trinity. I'll put it in the links below and you can check it out if you want. Okay, now for the bonus tip. This isn't necessary, but I like to do it because I find it brings the whole photo together and gives it that extra little emotion that I'm looking for. Let's dive back into Photoshop and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are. And we're back in Photoshop for the bonus round. This is actually sometimes the most important step for me. I mean, it looks great. You could absolutely stop right here and it's already had that dramatic effect. But I like to just bring it all together and make this sun flare really feel part of the photo. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna create an adjustment layer of color balance. And we'll hold down the Alt button and kind of hover the cursor between the 2 layers, and you see that crooked arrow come up. And then when we click, You can see that the crooked arrow's here, so it's only going to affect this layer right here. So if I turn this off, you can see this gets grayed out. And so this color balance is only going to affect this layer. So what I'm looking to do here is to get these colors to blend in together a little bit better. So I usually start in the highlights. That seems to be the best place to start and makes a lot of the dramatic changes. And like I said, I'm going to try to bring up these reds here to blend those in and try to get those reds from that tall grass and her shirt to kind of come together in the photo, and bring down the yellow here a little bit to give it a little bit more of that orange look than just straight red, and that looks pretty good. And then I'll go to the shadows next, and since we brought up the reds in the highlights, I'm going to bring the cyan into the shadows and kind of offset that a little bit. And maybe bring in just a little bit of magenta. And I think I'm just going to leave the yellows right about there. And then the midtones are super important. So of course we're going to adjust the opacity on this later, but first I just want to get it to kind of be the balance that I want overall, and then I can decide how much of it I want to see. Okay, so that's super dramatic and a bit too much, so we'll bring this opacity down. I like to bring it all the way down and then kind of inch my way up until I feel like it's the right balance. I feel like about 40% is good. Okay, and then the last thing that's kind of bugging me about this is we've got this flare right here on the model's face. Okay, so the layer that we want to change is that flare layer. So when we click on that and then go to our healing brush, it won't let us do anything until we rasterize the photo and make it editable. So we'll click OK, and that'll allow us to have the spot healing tool. But you have to be careful that you are only sampling this layer. So we're going to go up to the top here and we're going to click off sample all layers, so it'll only sample the layer that we have selected. Make sure our brush is large enough and soft enough, and that looks about right there, maybe a little bit smaller. Great, so now we don't have that flare on our face anymore. And that's it. It looks good to me. And so in 4 simple steps, you've gone from this to this. Easy as that. Super dramatic now, tons of emotion. It's really warm, and I love the feel of this. And to me, that just makes the photo. Now with just 3 simple steps and 1 extra optional, you can add sun flares to all your photos. Don't do that. You can also do this with anamorphic flares and add that sleek cinematic look to your videos. It's a little bit trickier because you have to get that flare to track a light source in Premiere Pro, but let me know in the comments if that's something you want me to do another video on. I hope it was helpful. If you feel like it was, please hit that like button below, as it really does help. Maybe share it with your fellow photographer friends. And if you haven't subscribed already, it would be super appreciated. And I'll see you in the next video.